are mixed messages from the Republican Party about how they want downtown Denver cleaned up, and what we're doing to fact-check claims about what happened at a pro-police rally after counter-protesters showed up. A lesson in perseverance comes from children, specifically brothers who just want to sell some lemonade. For contact tracing to work, people need to be willing to talk, and CU Boulder thinks it found a solution for campus in what's turning out to be one of the most difficult years for restaurants became harder after losing a chef good enough to open his own restaurant, but realized his talent served a bigger purpose. That's next.
Put your phones down, stop texting, and learn a lost art form. We're talking about writing a letter, or at least typing one. State lawmakers were busy today writing letters about what kind of law enforcement is needed in Denver. Republicans were writing letters asking different leaders for different types of help. Democrats were chiming in too. It's a good thing politics guy Marshall Zellinger has a thing for glasses, because there was certainly a lot of reading to do today.
Because texting the president is too informal, Republican State Representative Dave Williams started the day's letter writing with this note to the president, asking for federal law enforcement to come to Denver, in part to prevent further vandalism at the Capitol.
Would I be accurate that generally you want less government interference in life?
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
So why ask for federal government interference in state business?
Because it's gotten to a point where the governor has refused to do what is necessary to restore law and order.
Part of his letter referenced the pro-police rally this weekend and suggested Denver police were given orders to not protect the ralliers from the anti-police protesters, a claim also made by Republican House Minority Leader Patrick Neville on a national news program last night. So I asked Denver's manager of safety about it.
Did you or Chief Pazin issue a stand-down order specifically to not engage in getting in between the two groups?
Absolutely not. Chief Pazin, myself, the mayor, the governor, I've heard that rumor, we're not a part of that operation. It is not out of the norm for the commanders on the ground and the commander in the operations center to dialogue about what they think the appropriate actions are.
The second letter today came from House and Senate Democrats. It was sent to the U.S. Attorney in Colorado and said federal forces would not be welcome without an invitation. The third letter came from House Republicans as a group, led by Representative Hugh McKean. It asked the governor to use the National Guard to protect state-owned property, including Veterans Park, where a shooting just happened within a homeless camp 2 hours ago. Williams, who asked for federal help, also signed McKean's letter asking for state help.
Short of not being able to handle that within the state, I would prefer for it to stay here before we go asking elsewhere for help.
We should be teaching penmanship back in school. We don't have to do the type letters anymore. I asked the governor's office after all those letters, is the governor planning on having members of the National Guard patrol or protect state-owned buildings like the state capitol? I'd read his response, but it only deals with federal troops, Anusha. It did not answer the question at all about the National Guard. And I'm looking at my email hoping I could get a refreshed answer, and there still is nothing, so no response about the National Guard.
All right, checking up to the last minute. Thank you for that, Marshall. Appreciate it. The attorney for the family of Elijah McClain is suing the city of Aurora and its interim police chief over the police department's handling of protests last month. On June 27th, there were protests over the 2019 death of McClain. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of protesters and protest organizers, accusing Aurora police of indiscriminately using pepper spray, projectiles, and batons on protesters. This was after declaring the protests unlawful. The lawsuit is accusing the department of violating protesters' constitutional rights, and they are seeking damages and are also hoping to see the department bar using less lethal weapons on crowds exercising their constitutional rights. Now, Aurora City Attorney says that they have not been served yet, so they do need some time to evaluate the claims that were made in this lawsuit. Well, school districts had said from the very beginning, right, that their plans about the upcoming school year are going to need to be flexible. So it's not entirely surprising that that's exactly what's happening right now. Today, we heard from Jeffco now going to start the new school year with 2 weeks of remote learning. That was an update that they had passed along to their parents and students today. So after that 2-week period, pre-K through 5th grade can start in person or learning remotely. For secondary grades, that's 6th through 12th grade, the plan is for a hybrid schedule of in-person and remote learning. And there's also going to be a 100% remote option for families for all grades. Of course, all of this could be changing depending on what is actually going on with COVID-19 cases. Governor Polis set a goal of 8,500 tests a day by the end of May. We didn't actually get there until this month. The state processed over 9,100 tests yesterday, and we've been averaging more than 9,800 per day over the last week or so. Our positivity rate, however, it does keep inching up now at almost 4.5%. Now, the mood for part of Governor Polis's press conference today was one dominated by frustration. We had told you this week about some people waiting 10 days or longer to get their COVID-19 test results back. That essentially means that their tests are meaningless because the incubation period of the virus is 14 days. So a person might not even find out that they had the virus until it left their body, which also meant that while they were waiting, that they could have been contagious. Today, the governor said that turnaround time is not acceptable.
We've heard horrific stories of it taking up to 10, even 12 days for people's results to come back due to the national testing backlog. That is unacceptable. It is not helpful at all to have the results that far away. It's too late to do contact tracing, and it's already spread. And that's why we as Colorado are going to be taking matters into our own hands and expanding our state lab capacity and bringing additional in-state private lab partners online.
The governor also amended part of his decision about last call today. Grocery and liquor stores will be able to sell alcohol past 10 o'clock p.m., but the last call for bars and restaurants, that still stands at 10 o'clock at night. So contact tracing, right? We've talked about this a lot. It's really only going to work to slow down COVID-19 if people are willing to talk and there are enough people to actually call others. CU Boulder says they're coming up with a plan that they think will actually make students feel a little bit more comfortable, and it's only appropriate that it starts with launching a new class.
I think it's a great opportunity for students. We have a lot of students who are interested in public health.
In the middle of a pandemic, necessity competes with interest when it comes to contact tracing, which is why CU Boulder is offering a course on it.
And so it's an opportunity for them to take what they're learning in their classes and actually be able to practice it.
There were 85 students enrolled in the course expected to start reaching out to people by the end of August, and they will only reach out to other people on campus.
You know, there have been some reports in the newspapers about how sometimes people have been reluctant to talk to contact tracers. I think for students, it's helpful for them to be able to talk to other students or their peers. They might feel more comfortable about sharing some of that information. One of the things that's really important about contact tracing is getting in touch with somebody pretty quickly after we find out that there's been a positive COVID test.
That's the very thing health departments keep track of, like in Denver. They've been able to give guidance to nearly 90% of the people they've successfully contacted, but can't say yet if that contact tracing impacted the spread of COVID-19. And after pairing up with the Service Corps, the state says from May 25th through July 5th, the program contacted 99% of cases assigned within 24 hours and interviewed 72%. The state's goal is to onboard 800 AmeriCorps and Senior Corps members to help with contact tracing.
Chris Vanderveen says it is probably safe to call this a trend now, so we will. After climbing at the beginning of July, COVID-19 hospitalizations in Colorado now seem to be heading back down. 237 Coloradans are currently in hospitals with COVID-19. We were up over 270 last weekend. 31 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. Colorado added 616 new cases today, unfortunately continuing that upward trend we've been seeing. We've been averaging more than 510 new cases per day over the last week. After a day after saying that they stood by their ad, the National Republican Senatorial Committee's ad that was focusing on the Firestone home explosion is being pulled off the air. Erin Martinez, who lost her husband and brother in that explosion, had asked for that ad to be taken down. Yesterday, we told you about her call with Senator Cory Gardner to ask him to have that ad taken down. He told her that he didn't have the power to do so. Yesterday, the NRSC told us that they did not have any plans to take that ad down, but today they said, oh yeah, it's coming down because of a regularly scheduled change, and it's going to be replaced with a new ad.
The Denver food community has lost a chef good enough to have his own restaurant, who instead focused on feeding those who are too sick to cook themselves.
He saw that we had an open executive chef position, and he said, this is what I want. This is what I need right now.
Now that same community is stepping up to help his family. And when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. When life hands you a pandemic, you still make lemonade. Next.
In what is turning out to be one of the most difficult years for restaurants, for hundreds of restaurants in our area, one owner who decided to close also decided to help. This is a story that will serve as a reminder that a lot of restaurants feel like this, like they're in this together. Here's Chris Vanderveen and photojournalist Chris Hansen.
In heavy times, little things matter.
What number?
Jeff Osaka closed 12 at Madison 4 months ago.
22.
Many little things he gave away, but these things once on his walls.
Did you see his exhibit at the Denver Art Museum?
He figured needed some extra attention.
There were over 100 of them. Yeah, beautiful.
Tiny pieces of art created by local artist Jonathan Size.
Of simplicity, individuality.
Osaka put his 100 pieces up for auction on Facebook for one reason.
Really couldn't believe that it was true.
It was the death of well-known and well-liked Denver chef Brandon Foster.
On July 5th, Brandon died suddenly on a hiking trip with his family. And even 2 weeks later, this is still really difficult to talk about.
Owen Ryan is the president and CEO of Project Angel Heart, the place Chef Brandon transformed over the last 4 years of his life.
Brandon was big-hearted. He was always bringing joy to the kitchen. He was just full of life.
Brandon could have started his own restaurant. He was that good. Instead, he went to work here, a nonprofit that feeds 1,500 a week.
He saw that we had an open executive chef position, and he said, this is what I want. This is what I need right now.
And so when Brandon died, anyone who worked in fine food grieved.
You know, he leaves behind a wife and 3 young kids. I can't imagine the position they're in. 86.
Jeff Osaka's closure of 12 at Madison left empty walls once filled with art.
Thank you so much.
The sale of which will now help another grieving family.
Just over $15,000 we raised, yeah.
Because little things, even in heavy times, matter. Maybe now more than ever.
You know, he was a great chef, a great mentor to people, and a good friend.
For Next, this is Chris Vanderveen.
Afternoon cloud cover did little to keep temperatures down. We were back to the 90s today, but there may be a few showers coming off the foothills yet tonight to cool us. 93 in Denver, triple-digit highs on the eastern plains, but a lot of moisture headed to the Front Range. And slow-moving storms over the next few days will be capable of producing heavy rain, more thunder and lightning like we're seeing out around Julesburg, Sterling and Akron. There may be advisories for flash flooding out across the western slope, already seeing the effect of the pattern shift with all of that water coming into Colorado tonight. And so for the metro area, we have a stray shower early, then clearing, our low 64. Tomorrow's high back in the 90s with a good chance of rain from storms. That trend continues into the weekend with cooler weather expected on Sunday and Monday.
May I make a recommendation? This is where we point you towards something, anything that isn't necessarily ours, but we do feel like is worth taking a look at. So there has been an ongoing process within Denver schools to make sure that the curriculum is culturally balanced, that it's reflecting the students who learn it and the community's history. So the students at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College have been playing an instrumental part in this. Their principal told NPR that a trip to DC ended up being a critical turning point that has led to some incredible changes in the classroom. The interview, it is worth a read, and we're going to be posting a link to that on the next Facebook page.
It doesn't matter if you're young or old, we can all take a stand and make a difference.
Kids helping kids. Some familiar faces are turning the sour of the pandemic into something sweet. Next.
There are a lot of lessons that are hidden in setting up a lemonade stand. All you have to do is ask the Guffey brothers. Their stand was shut down in Denver because of permitting issues, so they ended up working with the city and the state to change those laws, and then COVID-19 hit. And once again, the brothers are finding a way to stay in business while helping others out. Here's Brian Wendland.
Summertime means serving up fresh lemonade for the Guffey brothers. Ben, William, and Jonathan have been quenching their neighbors' thirst for years.
Once you start, you can't really stop with this sort of thing.
COVID-19 threatened to make this a lemonade-less summer, though, until the kids came up with a safe way to stay in business.
So we came up with this contraption of items that we had around our house, and here we are with a contactless lemonade stand.
The brothers stand behind a plexiglass barrier, pour the lemonade into a funnel, which ends up in the customer's glass completely touch-free.
This lemonade stand was these kids' idea, and they wanted to show that even in the midst of a pandemic that we can all help. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, we can all take a stand and make a difference.
The Guffeys are making a difference by donating everything they earn to Children's Hospital Colorado to help kids who are fighting COVID-19.
And not all patients have the resources or the insurance or everything else that's really needed, so we're raising money to support that effort so we can take care of all children who have this disease.
Right now we're at about $7 from our lemonade stand, or I think maybe 10 now, so we're on our way.
The boys are also doing this to show other kids that they can run their own lemonade stand this summer too, despite social distancing and other safety concerns.
It's okay to copy us. You don't need a copyright.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
The Guffeys want to raise $1,000. If you're interested in helping, you can just head over to our website, 9news.com. Well, it is a sign that you're going to have to wear a mask now if you want to wear one at the end of October. That's next, along with your feedback. It is a sign that Halloween is on the line. Our viewer Sheila has sent us a picture of a display in her front yard in Brighton. She's using the skeletons to remind everyone to wear a mask and help slow down the spread of COVID-19. Because if you don't, well, you know how this goes. Trick-or-treating and fall festivities will look a lot different this year. How many times have we said that? If you didn't already know, Halloween falls on a Saturday this year, so let's stick together, people, so we can enjoy Halloween on a weekend for the first time in 5 years. All right, so we are getting some feedback. We talked to you guys about the NRSC ad that was being pulled, and then we went into an ad break. And lo and behold, the ad played out. It takes a little bit of time for it to cycle out, but of course we're going to be keeping tabs on that as well. So we appreciate you guys reaching out. Looking over at my email, got another email from Craig saying, better to spring for decent mics or headsets because female voice frequencies can be tougher on many without production issues. Craig, I'm going to take a guess that production is not the issue here. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.